Hello, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. My name is Anthony DeSimone, and I'm here for my second edition of Penguins Pointers. Looking at last night's game, which didn't go as well as most of us had hoped for, to try to extend that win streak to 4, the Penguins fell short and lost to the Stars 4-1. Here are some of the stats from last night. The Penguins had outshot the Stars despite losing in the goal department by 3. They had outshot them 34-23. The hits were also lopsided, where the Penguins had 33 hits to the Stars 16. Face-offs were about equal, but the big killer again for the Penguins, it has just been their Achilles heel so far this season, that power play, 0 for 5. And as a side note on the bottom, the Penguins had a 5-on-3 opportunity late in the third period that they had actually turned into a 6-on-3 by pulling Marc-Andre Fleury in an attempt to get back on track and get maybe an extra goal or two into the game and try to catch up. The premise that had happened was Perron had drawn a penalty that had given us a 2-minute minor to work with, and then there was a elbowing penalty that was called, I believe was what had happened there. So that elbowing penalty was a 5-minute major, and that gave us a great opportunity to have the power play opportunity for the rest of the period, and the Penguins had maybe 2 shots on goal when they're double up on the team, and they had actually almost allowed them to score an empty netter. So that was a huge thing, and we will get to that and how social media took to that shortly. My thoughts on the game: if you really watch the entire hockey game, the start of that game was a very fast start for the Penguins. They had jumped out to a 9-2 shot lead within the first few minutes of the game. The Stars had, of course, started crawling their way back, but what was the killer was the knuckleball goal that we all watched, if you had watched the game last night. There was, I think it was Oduya had taken just a really bad slap shot from the point, and it just knuckleballed through every stick and every player and behind Fleury, and it just found its way just high enough over Fleury's shoulder to squeak into the back of the net. And it's one of those goals that you as a goalie go, that's the throwaway goal. But from that moment on, you knew that goal had just broken the spirit of Fleury and had rattled him, and the players had followed suit. Because from there, the passing had fallen apart. The sense of urgency had dropped off. There were little bursts of it here and there when you thought maybe they were going to get something, but other than that, that sense of urgency was gone after that. That high-octane offense they had that drew up 9 shots in the first 10 minutes faded away. Even though they had 34 shots, it just didn't have the same feel. It just felt as almost the Stars had won with that goal at the first period. Not to mention, by the end of the first period, we had found ourselves down 3-0. That didn't help. But as you can see, the passing is still not there. Still a lot of turnovers in the zone. One that actually had led to a goal. Perron turned it over right in front of Fleury, and that is the biggest mistake you can make. And the Stars capitalized on it. That sense of urgency, I still don't see it. I understand that you're down 4-1 in a game. It's early in the season, but you have to bring that intensity. I don't care what the score is. I don't care what the situation is. They need to get off their horse, or get on their horse, and start really playing good hockey, and I'm just not seeing it from the Penguins right now. And I have to address it because it's being addressed by everybody. This power play is pitiful, it's atrocious, whatever you want to call it. It is not the power play that this Pittsburgh Penguins team is known for. If anybody remembers last season, about 2 to 3 months into the season, about 20-30 games in, we were converting at 40% on the power play, which is unprecedented and unheard of in the NHL. And as we all know, that train came crashing to a halt last season, and it's still derailed 7 games into this season. And the question is, what are we going to do to fix it here? Is it the players that just aren't connecting? Is it coaching that needs to be adjusted? Do we need to shuffle up the lines here? Something has to change. And what I personally think needs to change, and people might disagree with me on this, Crosby is a great, talented player. People want to see him score. I disagree. That's what you have Malkin for. That's what you have Phil Kessel for. David Perron is there. Bo Bennett is there. Pascal Dupuis. You have scoring capabilities. Use Crosby for his real talent, which is passing. passing, setting up the other guys. His puck handling skills are incredible. Just watching him handle the puck. Do yourself a favor. Watch him handle the puck the next time you watch a Penguin game. Just see how he is able to find these lanes and these avenues for the puck, and you're sitting there going, how did he get that pass there? That is what Crosby's role should be on the team. Yes, if he gets the opportunity to shoot, by all means, go ahead, because he's got a great shot. But I see him better as a player that sets up other players. That's where I see him at. And yeah, that's still going to win you some titles and some recognition, because guess what? A point is the same as a goal as it is as an assist. It doesn't matter. A point's a point. So don't throw a fit because Crosby's not scoring 30, 40 goals like Ovechkin, because we all know Ovechkin had 50-some goals 2-3 years ago. He was a minus 30. It doesn't matter how many goals you score. If you're not a good, well-rounded player that helps the rest of your line, you can score all day, but you're going to lose because the other team will just score right back if you don't have that chemistry. So that's my thought on Crosby. I just think he's a better passer. Have him set up some guys and get some really good passes on their tape and put it right in the back of the net. That's just what I'm seeing. But that's my opinion. Everybody's entitled to their own, and that's where we're going next. Let's take a look at social media. So let's see. The first one that pops up, it's got the most likes as of last night, was hashtag Fire Mike Johnson. There were other ones that were Fire Johnson ASAP, stuff like that. So the Penguin fans are still on that bandwagon that Johnson's got to go. Let me say one thing. You keep turning heads and firing coaches, moving players, changing lineups, you are never going to get a strong chemistry on a team. You don't get strong chemistry on a team, you don't win the Stanley Cup. Look at the Chicago Blackhawks. They have won 3 titles in 6 years, and for the most part, they've kept the same staff, they've kept the same athletes, and look what it has turned into. They are arguably a dynasty in hockey right now. That is maybe what the Penguins should have been, but we kept turning heads and not sitting down and saying, okay, look, we need to let this mesh. Yeah, they didn't win the Stanley Cup every year, but I think it's pretty good if you win 3 and 6. I think that's pretty good. But that's beside the point. That's just my thought is we're changing everything in the organization every year, trying to build a Stanley Cup team every year, and it backfires on us every single time. You're not going to win the Stanley Cup every year. That's why there are 30 teams in the NHL. You aren't going to win it every year. How about we spend a season or two and set ourselves up to win the Cup down the road, is what I think we really need to focus on. Maybe it won't be this year. Probably it won't be this year if we don't resolve these issues. But you have to look at the road ahead. Stop looking nearsighted and look farsighted for once. That 6-on-3, someone said 6-on-3 can't score, weak guys. I agree. That was embarrassing. It was hard to watch. Is 6-on-3, there are double the amount of players than your opposition, and you can't get anything behind Niemi. Speaking of which, so much talent and such a waste. I keep hearing hot goalie, but I think the Pens make any goalie hot. That's a pretty good job at the Penguins there. You know, they always say, oh, well, Niemi's a good goalie. Let me put it this way. If the goalie is playing in the NHL, he's doing something right, which means he's going to be a good goalie. Some nights you catch him on a good night, sometimes you catch him on a bad nights. Last night, not really Fleury's night. Maybe it was Niemi's night, but at the same time, this fan makes a good point. If we're only putting 1, 2, 3 goals up a game when you have talent on our team, that's something's not right. You can't keep pointing the finger at the other team and saying, well, it's their fault that we lost. No, sometimes you need to look at yourself and go, okay, something's not working here. We have all this talent. We have a lot of good goal scorers and setup men. We should be putting up a couple goals, 4, 5. At least every 2-3 games, we should have one of those offensive explosion nights with the amount of talent we have. Because we're not, let's be honest, Fleury's a great goaltender, but we are not a defensive team. We are an offensive team, and we need to accept that. The last one I want to look at that I thought was funny was 1 goal with all that talent, pitiful. Same thing. It's this fan addresses the same point. It's pitiful to see it's to see that talent on the ice and to see them getting beat, and not by a little bit where we lost 3-2. No, you lost 4-1, and this was a game where the Stars were just waltzing around the rink the entire third period. I'm sitting there going, is this practice or is this a game? What are we doing here? We're just sitting here and letting them roll over us. I understand it's a 3-goal deficit. That's demoralizing. But you have to play the full 60 minutes. Because, look, maybe if we could have got a goal and made it 4-2, and then the opportunity we had with the 6-on-3 happens, who knows? You could be staring at a 4-4 hockey game with a few seconds to go, and it could be labeled as an amazing comeback. But you have to put the effort forward to get the goal. You can't look at it as a 3-goal deficit. You have to look at it and go, okay, we have 20 minutes, let's get a goal. Because you can't do anything if you don't get that first goal. And that's what I think was happening, was they were so focused on trying to get 3, they saw it as insurmountable, and they had just surrendered and accepted the defeat. Hence why we saw the performance we did, hence why fans are mad, and hence why we're 3-4 right now. With that, we'll move over to the standings in our division. The Rangers still hold the top spot with 5 wins and 1 overtime loss to give them 11 points. The Capitals have moved up to 3rd. Flyers have fallen to 4th. The Penguins still find themselves in 6th place with 6 points. Only behind them are the Carolina Hurricanes with 4, and Columbus, who is yet to register a win this season. So, yeah, we got the 3 wins in a row, but it's still early in the season, and I had predicted, hey, we're going to have a rough start, so I can't go against my own word and say I didn't expect this, but I did expect this. So I'm still, as a fan, and just as a fan, I'm not concerned. You know, there's 82 games for a reason. Like I said, I will become concerned when we get to about 20 games into the season, and I see maybe we still haven't racked up our 10th win. I think by the 20-game mark, if we are sub 500 record, we have a problem at that point. And at that point, there's still 62 games to go, so there's still not a major sense of, oh, we need to win every single hockey game. No, you need to get your chemistry developed first. And with Johnson changing the lines constantly, like last night, they kept rotating Dupuis in and out of lines to see what worked. You can't do that. You have to pick a line and go with it for 60 minutes, see what you see, stick with it for a few games, and then if you don't see the chemistry develop after those few games, then okay, now we need to change something. But you have to let these players sit and mesh together a little bit before you change. Because if you just keep changing the athletes and their lineups, there's never going to be a development of chemistry, and that's why the passing's sloppy. That may be why the power play's sloppy, because they keep changing things. Look at it from a scientific standpoint. You can't address an issue and figure out what the problem is if you are constantly changing the variables. If I change 3 or 4 variables in a scientific experiment, how am I supposed to know which one fixed or didn't fix the problem? And that's what the Penguins are doing right now. And it's to blame for both the players and for the coaching staff. Everybody's to blame here. There's no pointing it to Mike Johnson. There's no pointing it to Sidney Crosby. It's a team effort. And right now, they need to get the team on board with one another and situated and organized. And I don't see it. And that's why you see such rough, sloppy 1-goal, 2-goal a night play from the Penguins, because the team itself does not have that chemistry yet. So I'll leave it at that. And, you know, you can take it however you want and spin it and think about it however you want. You're entitled to your own opinion, but think of it from that kind of perspective of, if you keep changing things, what do you know fix the problem? Because you might change something and it creates another problem, and now you don't know, okay, what did I do that caused this problem now? Because they're just changing too many things in the course of one game. And that's what I think is really hindering them right now. I think they got lucky with the first 3 wins. I really did. None of them that I thought were really decisive wins. So, with all that, they have their next game on the lineup. It's going to be Saturday the 24th at 8 o'clock. It's a road game. It's going to be in Nashville against the Predators, who are a pretty tough team. And they've shown that the last couple seasons, and they're off to a great start, 6-1 with 12 points. And the road doesn't get much easier. Yes, the Penguins get a few days off, but they find themselves then Wednesday at home against the Capitals. That's going to be a good matchup as well. And then they go to Buffalo the following night. So the Penguins got a couple days off after this one to try to organize and get situated. But then they have the back-to-back games where we might see the backup goalie come in and see how that works out. So A lot of stuff set up for the Penguins coming up down the road this week. 3 big games coming up, and I think you're going to see one of two things happen in Nashville. Either A, the Penguins are going to get their act together a little bit, put up a good effort, and maybe squeak out of Nashville with a win, or B, the train's going to stay derailed and Nashville's going to roll over the Penguins in a big blowout, and at which point we might have some people maybe get pulled into the office. Maybe you hear some players voice some frustration at that point, because for the Penguins to be at a 3-5 record with the talent they have on their ice, I could see players and coaches starting to get a little flustered. But like I said, me personally, I'm still in this area where I'm not worried about it, because there's still so much hockey season to go. You know, you can't look at the first 6 games and determine, well, we're making the playoffs. No, because that's foolery, because other teams might get into ruts. Other teams might have major injuries. You might have major injuries that cripple the team. We've had it happen to us the last 3-4 years. We start out so well, everybody thinks we're going to be the greatest team, and then look what happened. Last season, we couldn't win in the last month of hockey, and we went all the way from in the race to win it, all the way down to squeaking in by the last point. The way the hockey season works, it is absolute chaos. And if you can just pick the right time and capitalize on any mistakes or injuries or ruts that your opponents get into, then you will have a good season. But you can't judge how the Penguins are going to play the entire season based on, what are we at, 7 games into the season? So those social media people that went on there and just blurted out all this anger about the coach, no, because it's too early in the season for that. I could see 40, 50 games if we're way below 500 and you're now starting to realize, we might not be able to pull this together. Then yeah, okay, we have a problem. But we're not like the Blue Jackets. The Blue Jackets took 0-8 to fire their coach. We're not 0-8. We're 3-4 with 6 points, and we're only 5 points out of the top spot. You say 5 points out of the top spot come playoff time where we're trying to make that run, 5 points is pretty darn close to catching them. You know, we're worried about it already, and you still have a ton of hockey to play? No, I'm not buying into that, and I think a lot of people that are listening to this need to get on my side and not buy into that idea that we're in trouble, because we're not. Not every team comes out of the gates running, especially after so many changes. It doesn't happen, and if it does, then you were darn lucky. That's the way it goes. Whenever you start with a new team, you guys don't instantly click. You have to work at it. You have to practice. You have to hone in on your skills. Realize who's good at what. Realize where you're lacking. Make the changes and make a well-rounded team. So I see this next couple games still being a rough stint for the Penguins, like I had said in the last podcast. But I will say, at some point, they're going to get their feet under them. They're going to start clicking. And at some point within the next 4 or 5 games, I expect us to rack up 6 goals. Against who? I don't know, but at some point the Penguins are going to have a 6-goal marker within 5 games. At some point it has to happen. They have to break out of their slump. They have to start clicking and have that one really good game that they can then go, okay, we understand what we're doing now. So, all we can really do as fans, as always, is just sit back, watch the games, because we all have to go to work the next day. It doesn't affect us, you know what I mean? So, you can get frustrated with it, but in the end of the day, there's not much you can do about it. You can go voice your opinion on social media, but let's be honest, they don't read that stuff. That's more or less just where fans go to blurt out and yell and throw hissy fits, and people make funny comments, and that's just silly. You know, just watch the game and think about it from the standpoint of the athletes and the coaches. What do you think they're trying to do? Stop going with this gut reaction of, oh, the Penguins are just terrible. They're the worst team in hockey. Crosby's terrible. Johnson should be fired. No, they all made it into the NHL for a reason. Because I tell you right now, I can't even stand on skates. So I don't have leverage to say Crosby's a bad player if I can't even skate on the ice without falling over myself. So with that, keeping that in mind, just want to thank you all for listening. That is going to wrap up this second edition of Penguins Pointers. I hope you guys enjoyed. As always, please head down to the bottom of this page, like and subscribe to the channel, and we'll try to keep putting up a video once a week or so. I might have a couple guests come on. I know my friend Dan is still trying to get on here. He's going to end up bringing some stuff about Chicago. So if you like the Blackhawks, that should be coming up shortly. With that, like I said, thank you guys very much for watching, and I will catch you guys next time.